Hi, everyone. I don't know if you guys know me, but I am Mariah. I am the AE instructional coordinator here at Clovis Community College. I still haven't learned that huge long title yet. So I'm really excited to be here. I'm going to share just a couple of things with you about what we've been doing as a team, especially with virtual learning and just being not on campus as much. So this is me, and joining me today is Kristen. Kristen, you want to introduce yourself?
Well, yes, I can do that. So I'm Kristen. I teach, I have several roles. I'm part of Mariah and I are both part of the distance learning support team, trying to help everybody around the state with this uh, trial of working from home and learning how to do it. I also teach at UNM Valencia, and I'm a coordinator for the ACE program, which is a adult ed program for TANF participants around the state. So I have a lot of hats to wear.
Don't we all? I think that's what we're doing all right now. All right. So we're just going to kind of hop in here, and I want this to be a little bit of a discussion board. So if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to incorporate, please feel free to do that. This whole session is about team building. So I'm going to come back right quick. It's about team building. How do you build relationships across the board, especially being virtual? It's really, really hard. And I know I've had this a couple weeks ago. Actually, I had a teacher come in, and it was really, really hard for her. And she just sat down, and I think we talked for about 30, 45 minutes about just everything that was going on. And she's like, I just feel so disconnected and I don't know what to do. And I finally told her, I was like, you know what, we're both in the same boat, because I don't have a lot of student interaction and this and that. And she's like, oh, I thought I was the only one. I didn't think that the students liked me anymore. And I realized that there was such a big disconnect. And so it's a really good thing. And I feel like we've kind of changed some stuff to build up our teams and realize that we're all on the same page. We're all in, or how I like how my supervisor says it. I'm sure everyone's heard this, is we're all in an airplane that we're trying to build right now. We're all flying and we're still trying to build that airplane. And so I get it. It's really hard and it's really difficult, but we want to try to make sure that we are all connected in some way, fashion, and how to do that by building a team, by building a relationship and a community where we all feel comfortable. So we all did kind of put where we are, where we're from, and what your role is. So the next question that I have is, what ice cream flavor would describe your personality? So if you could put that in the chat box right quick.
Well, that takes some thought.
Oh, that takes some thought.
How do you describe your personality with an ice cream flavor? I've got one.
So just maybe 30 minutes or so. 30 minutes. Wow, 30 seconds or so. Ooh, I like that. Love it. I love it. Yes.
And what about you, Mariah?
If I were now just picking, I'd like to say something like I'm peanut butter, like a peanut butter or a coffee. Like I really try to think about this one, but I think in reality, I'm like vanilla, pretty plain and simple. I really like to think like I'm a coffee, like I have a lot of energy, and I'm really not. Like for these kind of sessions, it takes quite a bit out of me. So to describe my personality, I'm a vanilla. I'm very.
But you know what? Everybody needs a good vanilla sometimes.
I think more often than not, though, I'm a vanilla. So this is kind of an interesting question, and I like starting off, especially my classes, with these questions, because it kind of gets us thinking a little bit
I like
more deep about who we are and the type of people we are, and it really allows us to connect with other people. Because just now I'm reading these comments, and it's interesting to see how we perceive ourselves, and then how other people as well. Like I just said I'm a vanilla because I'm kind of plain, kind of just there. And Kristen said, sometimes you need a vanilla person, and that kind of helps me to be like, okay, yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that any day.
You need to read Elizabeth's comment on vanilla. Do you see it?
Plain and simple, but can easily be combined with others to make them. Oh, thank you. See, like that, just like that. But silly, what we would consider silly questions. And I know a lot of times when we're in meetings and we're in sessions, we don't really think about having a fun time. We think about getting in, doing what we need to, talking about what we need to, and we don't really stop to think about what could we do to make a connection. And I know when we're face to face, we have a little bit more because we could see everybody's expressions. And even right now, I'm like, I don't know who you are, Elizabeth or Eva, but I would really like to know who you are and see your face. And that kind of, it's hard sometimes. But how can we build that bridge? How can we make a gap? How can we build our teams to be comfortable with each other, to be able to share these kind of relationships and beyond, just to go beyond just being a coworker and to build something, build a team. So I'm going to talk, maybe if my screen would work, there we go. I'm going to talk about just finding a connection in general. And I think the first thing that I would like to kind of talk about is finding a communication platform. And not a whole lot of thought goes into this. And I know, excuse me, I'm sorry. I know for some of us, it's like, well, we just talk when we can. But I think it's very important to find something that you can be consistent with. So the first one that I have is Meet. And I'm really going to be focusing on the Google tools simply because that's part of who we are and all that we have. But each week, I know my program, we have a weekly meet where everybody gets on, everybody turns on their camera just so that we can see each other. And again, I didn't start doing this until recently when my teacher said that. And the first time that we did it, that we all turned on our cameras, it broke my heart because I realized, I know I have struggled a lot with being the whole social distancing and working at home and all of that. I didn't realize the effect that it was having on everybody else. And so when my teachers turned on their cameras, you could just see it, how, and I don't know if you guys have had this experience, but a lot of our teachers or my teachers have looked like they've gone through a lot within the last couple of weeks, months, like they've aged. And I know myself, I feel like I've aged, and I know when I look at pictures, I was like, oh, I know I'm not that old, and I know we talk about this, but I know the impact that it's having on me. But just seeing that meet, and it was so nice to see when they turned on their camera and the smile that just came on their face. They're like, hi, it's been so long, I missed you, but just finding that communication platform. And sometimes it's hard because I know we don't always like to turn on our cameras. You really have to figure out what's best for you. And there are some teachers that I do have a little bit of they're shy. I'm going to say they're shy, but I think you have to find the platform that works best for you. So I really do like Meet because it gives you that opportunity to see each other's face. You can also use Hangouts, which I think is really good just for everyday communication. It's something very easy. You don't have to do a whole lot. You can put a lot of your ideas, comments, concerns any time of day. You don't have to wait for a specific time. And it's a chat box. You can put whoever you want in there. You can build up a team. You can build up different groups and just have those messages flying back and forth. And I know with the distance learning team, we have like 3 or 4 different conversations going on at a time, but it makes it interesting because it keeps us engaged and it keeps us connected together. A new one that they have instead of Hangouts is Chat. And it's still part of Google. It's a little bit different. I like the layout on my computer versus how Hangouts look, but it's pretty much the same thing. Hangouts and Chat, there are quite a few differences, but it's still that same platform that we have of where you can just make groups and talk and communicate with people. Workplace. This is one that I would really, really like to explore. I haven't done a whole lot of it because I'm terrible with my own Facebook page, so I haven't really initiated it. But Workplace is a really nice place to kind of get together, and in some ways it is professional, and in other ways you really get to share your thoughts and feelings on a deeper level across the state, not just within your program, but across a huge community of people who are in the same boat and same position as you are. And that is one that I know I would like to talk about and try to work on in my program and just in general get better at. So those are the communication platforms. There are so many others, but what it has to come down to is what is going to work for you, what is going to work for your program, and that's all that matters. Not There is not one platform that is going to be better than the others. It's going to have to determine with where you are and what works. So I know a lot of people don't have a whole lot of bandwidth, so they can't use Meet as nice as they would like to, or if you're like me, my Hangouts doesn't work on my phone, and so it's not always the most ideal. So you really have to figure out which is going to work for your community, for your teachers, and work with that. So we found a platform. Now what? I think the next part is finding a topic. Now, this isn't always something that you need to do, but sometimes just kind of getting, you have, and I know we do this, like, especially when we're in groups, is we're all sitting together, we're laughing, we're talking, and then it just goes silent. That awkward pause. And sometimes you have to keep going with it. You have to keep encouraging and finding topics. So one of the things I started this week was Motivational Mondays, where every Monday I would say, all right, happy Monday. I hope it's going good. And I know this Monday was like the Mondays of Mondays. Like, it was just one of those days. But I was like, let's do Motivational Monday. How is your Monday going? What's going on? How is your weekend? And that really helped to kind of just generate a conversation that lasted across two days, I think. I think it was Wednesday. They finally kind of, it trailed off and there was nothing else to talk about Monday. So then find a new topic, maybe Free Fridays. What are you doing for the weekend? And I know there's not a whole lot that any of us are doing right now, but have a Free Friday. Maybe ask a silly question like, if you were a safari animal, what would you be? Something just to kind of get them engaged. Finding that topic to help encourage. And I'm not saying that you have to find a topic every time, but do something, especially if you're feeling lonely and disconnected. Find something that is going to spark some sort of conversation, and you'll like what ideas come up. Just have an open space. If it's Wednesday, say it's open space day. Ask all your questions, comments, concerns. Maybe throw out a question that you've had. And I know I have a lot of questions. And just for the fun of it, because I know I can come, because I'm working in an office, so I know I can just run out and ask my supervisor or ask my advisors, what do you think about this? But I throw it out to my teachers as well. And I'm like, what do you think about this? And so we get a lot of general ideas and feedback. And, oh, I was thinking the same thing. A lot of teachers just don't feel like they can unless you put the question out there as well. And then the last one, create the environment. So I really like this idea, and I'm going to ask Kristen, springing it on you, Kristen.
That's okay.
Talk about the lounge, and I really like, and I wanted to do this idea beforehand, but I really like when Kristen and I were talking about this, she said that they created the lounge, and I really like this idea, and it's something that I would like to try out, but Kristen has a really good functioning I say it's functioning. I like the way it sounds.
It's actually turned into a really expansive thing. As I said, I work at UNM Valencia, and when we first started having to stay at home, we were already using Google Hangouts. We had a kind of a group chat where we could put up ideas for work. It was intended to be for work-related stuff. But once we started being home alone, everybody just kind of got on there and started talking. And, I'm sure a lot of you have, general, at least fairly good relationships with most of the people that you work with. And when we're in the office, you can pop over to somebody's office and say hi, or, go grab a cup of coffee in the break room or whatever. But since we couldn't do that online, we started using Google Hangouts for it. And people would ask some crazy questions or share, oh, I'm going to be late today because my pipes froze under my house, or I'm not sure. Somebody got on the phone one time and they were stuck behind a train. They were going somewhere and they were stuck behind a train. I was so bored. This train won't move. It's just silly things like that. And so eventually it got to the point where we had to divide our chat up. So now we renamed that one as our lounge. It's where we can just go in and talk about whatever, talk about our families, talk about our day. Sometimes it's work related questions, but not always. And we can cheer each other on. We know when our kids are going to be doing something and someone else is going somewhere, or it's just a really nice place where we can have those, chats or conversations that we would normally have had if we were face to face. So we have that. We have our lounge, and then we also created a status board, which is limited to kind of like a time sheet, or when you clock in and out on a time card. We don't necessarily use it for time, but just to know who's available and who's not during the workday. So we generally check in there and say we're in, or, okay, now I'm going into a meeting. I'll be back in an hour, or I'm going to lunch. And then, of course, that sparks the question of, oh, what's everybody having for lunch? And we have to move it over to the lounge again. So we have that. And then we created another group that's only for instructors. It doesn't include our director. It doesn't include our data people. It's just instructors in the program. And it's where we can discuss problems or issues or successes with our day-to-day life. So, and we really have good involvement with all of these. It took a little while for some of our part-time instructors to get really involved, but it has really morphed into something that I think is amazing. We're on it all the time, and we know who's there and who's not. And, we can say, I have one instructor whose husband has been in and out of the hospital. And when she comes on, we can say, hey, how's he doing? Is everything okay? Do you need anything? That kind of stuff. So it's definitely been a really good support to have that lounge where we can just kind of be ourselves and be present in our day instead of just shut away in our houses.
I love that idea. That's like, I was so excited because when we were talking about this, I was like, I know what we do, but there's so many things I want to do. And then Kristen came on and she started talking about the lounge, and I was like, oh, I want that. That's what I want. I want that. So, but you do have
the other thing with that lounge too, that I just wanted to point out that's really nice, is people are always monitoring it. We just kind of keep it on our computers or on our phones. So there's always somebody there to answer a question if you have a question. If you're having a technology problem, or if we have a question for our data people because a student wants to come back to class, or we don't know who the student is that showed up for our class, those things happen. And it's so easy to just pop on there and say, hey, does anybody know this student? Or, what's going on with this? And there's always somebody there to answer, which is nice. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I really do like that idea. And it's, being available when you can. It's not that you have to be on there, but it's when you can.
Right.
I really like that idea. So creating that environment is going to be important, because if you just have like fall group, it doesn't sound as personalized, and it doesn't sound as connective. So create an environment, even just by the name. So like I have here, I have the lounge, which is kind of what my idea was. And then afterwards, thinking about this, you could call it the coffee house, where everybody comes in. And I know I'm a coffee drinker. I love coffee. And I can't function without coffee. Half of my coworkers are the same way. So it's just, creating a name that's going to make sense for you and your group of people. So how to encourage connection? Prompts. Start off with prompts. Weekend fun pictures. I know a lot of people have Facebook, but um, I know, like myself, I don't like adding coworkers or teachers to my Facebook because we have such a high turnover rate of teachers. My Our full time staff is a little bit different, um, but some of the part time teachers, I don't add them simply because it's kind of weird. If they don't come back, you don't want to kind of have that awkwardness, and you want to keep a little bit professional. But if you have these group um, sessions, workplace, or anything like that, you could send weekend fun pictures or, pictures of your dog, I remember, or your cat. Um, Last week we were in a webinar or a session, and my supervisor had her camera on, and her cat came prancing across her video, and I was like, oh, look, there's the cat. And it kind of led us on a different conversation, or I had a little side conversation with somebody else. We do want to see that. It just makes it a little bit real to realize that somebody else has another life and there's other things going on besides work. So weekend pictures, do a show and tell. That's really fun. And I know we think about that as like being kids or, that's like a first day thing. But, doing the show and tell every so often is, bring something to a meeting and tell us about it. Tell us how it's impacted your life, or what can you do with it to make you a better person, or how does it make you a better person? Highlights and hiccups. This is something I do with my teachers whenever we have our weekly meets. Um, I tell them, you have to tell me one highlight of your week and one hiccup. And those have been amazing because it they tell us, I've had 13 students do all of their work out of 15, and they get really excited about it. And then they're like, oh, but you know what? Something else happened this week where um, my computer didn't want to do this, or this assignment didn't work out. And it's created a lot of good discussions, mostly about classes, of how we could do better or what are some suggestions. And it's different when it comes from their supervisor, myself, versus coming from another teacher where, I know I started out as a teacher, but coming across, it does help if it's coming from another instructor who they feel is having the same issues as they are. So that's one of the things that I really like to do is prompting them. And it takes quite a bit of time because we have quite a few teachers. So going through each and every one and saying, what is the highlights and hiccups? So for them, sometimes it can be a little bit of a chore. Um, but overall, I think at first they were a little reluctant about it. And then as it went on and on, they realized that it was a lot better than what they had initially thought. And it really changed the way they interacted with me and um, with their peers, their coworkers. And so I really like that aspect of it. Do quick surveys. So just something short, how was your weekend? How are you feeling today? Something that they can answer right away and they realize that it's not so disconnected. How are your classes going? Are you feeling like you're going to be able to do it? You want to do something to also help with that mental health. You want to keep them connected and understand what all they're going through, and keep it engaged. Something that they can run with, and nothing too long. I know sometimes we get a whole bunch of surveys and we just kind of get bogged down, but just do something that's going to be, every day. How's your Monday going? Good, great, bad. Quick surveys. Doesn't have to be anything too long. Make it interesting, make it relevant. You don't want something ridiculous like what is your personality type? I guess you could if that's something that you guys are into, but just keep it something that you can keep engaged and going. But I think the biggest thing that I wanted to point out when I was thinking about this is understand etiquette. Especially online, you want to understand what it means to be respectful, communication is appropriate, and make rules that need to be understood and across the board. And these aren't rules that one person makes. These are rules you want to make as a group. Simple things as maybe make sure your punctuation is correct. That's not always something, but it could be something that you find engaging, and you want to make sure that it is part of what you keep in as part of your communication. And you want to make sure that everyone feels a part of it, and they're not being separated or put down. And that's something really, really hard. You may not know, but I am a very shy person. I do not like, if I'm in a huge group of people, I do not like talking, simply because I get so nervous and I don't know what people are going to think. And especially if it's not a conversation that I'm extremely comfortable with, I don't say anything. If it's something where I know my ideas and my personality is going to be accepted, then I do tend to talk a little bit more. In general, if you were to meet me face to face, yeah, I'm not usually this talkative. It's a little bit easy because the only one I am seeing is Kristen, and so that makes it like 10 times easier for me. But I am a very shy person, and so for people like me, I understand what it is to feel like you don't have much to say, and you don't know what to say, and you don't know how to get in there. I understand that feeling, and sometimes you kind of have to break that with setting some ground rules. And that's going to be a huge thing, is having that etiquette and that understanding of these are the rules, these are how you should perform in any sort of discussion online, and each one is going to have their different aspects. So I think somebody said that they had like an open bar night, and so that's going to be a little bit different than a workplace chat. People are going to be doing different things, but those rules are going to be different from maybe the lounge rules or maybe the workplace rules. But you have to set up the rules so that every person feels that they can become comfortable in it if they are a part of it. So let's see. So I want a panel discussion. What are your concerns? What are your struggles with team building? I want to do a little bit of communication here, because it's important that we kind of figure out across the board, try to talk some of these things out, because that's the biggest thing. Is team building is all about connections and getting to know people and sharing ideas. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry, excuse me. So are there any questions, anything that you feel as a team you struggle with?
Everybody was very talkative before. So let's see. Kathleen says she's struggling with developing connections in a classroom where she's really pressed for time. And Elizabeth says one common issue seems to be communication among the team. You want to answer that, or do you want me to?
So I'll do I'm sorry, I only remember the last one. It does not work like that. Communication across the team. One of the things that I found out that works really well is if you have a working Word document where you can keep track of notes and things that are happening. That happened recently with one of my teachers here. Is there was just a miscommunication between myself, the advisors, the teachers, and it just wasn't really working. So we ended up building a working document where we could all go in there. They could see questions, comments, concerns, anything that has been asked. And it's not a huge document. I think it's like 3 pages where they can go in and they can look at what's been said. And then we go back and forth. If they have more questions, then we bring it up at our team meeting. But one of the big things is I make my teachers talk. And it sounds a little harsh, but I do make sure that they ask their questions verbally. And if not, then I call them out. And this is really hard because I know how hard it is for me. But I do say, Guillermo this week had a question. His question was this. And then that usually prompts them to talk a little bit more and expand on it. And so it really is a matter of making sure that their communication is being out and they know that they can communicate with you. So I know transitioning from being a teacher to the position that I am in now has been a little bit hard. And so for me, it really was building that relationship where they realize they can come to me with any questions, and just having a page where all the questions are there and they realize that no question is going to be ridiculous, that all questions are going to be acceptable. and we'll work it out. Even if it is a question that I've answered 3 or 4 times, if you ask it, I'm going to put it back on there because obviously there's something that is not connecting. And so with that, it's a little bit hard, but that's what I would say is either keep a working page or, whenever you do have meetings, create a group where those questions can be asked. And so they so that they can repeat them and see them over and over and over.
Yeah. And one of the other things that we do in our program to encourage communication, similar to what you said with the document and letting people ask questions, is we have and we were doing this before the pandemic, but we've transferred it onto Google Meet, is once a week we have a regularly scheduled department meeting or staff meeting, whatever you want to call it, where everybody that works in our department is invited to come. And we make sure that an invitation goes out to everybody for that. So it's not just, well, show up if you want to. Our director sends out an invitation each time saying, come to the meeting. But the first thing we do at that meeting, we usually kind of hang out and talk while everybody's getting there. And then we create an agenda together. So kind of go around the room or around the list of everybody that's there and say, do you have anything that you want to talk about or that you want to add to the agenda for us to talk about during the meeting? And it's actually really interesting, some of the things that come up that you wouldn't necessarily think people were concerned about or worried about. But it gives everybody that kind of permission or that open forum to tell what's on their mind. And then, of course, we still have the leaders who are putting on the important things on the agenda, that we have to do every week. But we get those other things too. And then we just kind of go down the list, and everybody, we have pretty much a group discussion about each item on the list. I don't know if all departments are like ours or if I just belong to a really, really good one. But we really, we're more of a team. We don't have, everybody has their positions, but it's almost like everybody has a say in what we do. And we have some really open decisions or open discussions, about any of the decisions that we make for the program. And so it's kind of nice to get those people who might not always participate, to get them involved in that decision making and making suggestions and planning and things like that, as well as just teaching their classes. So it's a way to make them feel like they're really part of the department by asking them, what do you feel we need to talk about? What's important to you?
Right. That's a really good thought. I really like that idea. I'm going to jump down because we don't have a whole lot of time, but I saw my students struggle with commitment. One of the things that I did with my class as part of team building, and this was with my ESL class recently, is I created like 1 week, we did a whole week lesson on elections and what it meant to be part of an election. We talked about presidential roles, and then we had a class vote. And in that, we had a president, we had a technology support, and a class lead. So with that, my students had to, every week, they created their own group, and they were able to communicate with each other, ask questions, and my class lead ended up getting on to like several different students to make sure that they had completed their assignments. Did you watch this video? Did you do that? What did you think of it? And it was actually very impressive because I had a huge amount of students that finished or that actually finished the course. And we've actually been struggling with our ESL classes, but just putting somebody else besides me, because I'm the teacher, putting somebody else besides me, putting the responsibility onto the teacher, onto a student, really changed their perspective because they realized that it was now in their hands and their peers were going to get onto them. And let me tell you, it was very interesting to watch that conversation because they incorporated me. And every time I tried to remove myself from the group, they would just add me right back in. So I was part of it whether I liked it or not. And those conversations were very interesting where I was like, no, you have to do your homework. You have to do this. You have to do that. And that's one of the things where it really built them. And we're in the middle of an interim. And so my students, they're still talking. They're still using that Hangout group to talk about what they're doing during this time and what they should do for next time. And it's really brought them together in a way that I didn't think was possible with everything going on. So as far as like building commitment, maybe you could think about an activity where it puts responsibility back on them. So that way they're not just in charge of themselves, but in charge of others. That accountability buddy partner or accountability buddy kind of idea.
I like that idea. So we are over time right now. We should probably go ahead and break. Yeah, we were supposed to be done at 3:30.
3:30 or 3:35?
I don't know. I had 3:30 written down.
I have 3:35 on
Oh,
my
maybe
paper.
it is 3:35.
I don't know. Yeah.
You're right. It's 3:35. So go ahead.
Oh, we're walking. So I think, Kristen, you filled out you put in this one, right?
It's the same. It's not the same one that I put in, but it goes to the same form. So yeah.
So you guys I'm sure you guys are probably tired of this. I know. We see it every single time, but if you guys have not gotten on Workplace, we do have Workplace available. It is for anyone who has an NM Delta account. So if you don't have an NM Delta account, you can easily get one and hop on. It's really fun. It's actually a very nice place to be. And then we have the professional development survey. So if you have not done that, it's only 10-15 minutes. It really helps us decide what we need to do as far as PD is concerned for this next year. And then the motivational coaching is starting on Monday. And so if you would like to be a part of that, it is actually a great course to go through. So thank you all for coming. I really do appreciate it. And I hope you got something out of it. This was called team building.
I think it went very well.
Thank you. These are fun. You are welcome. And we will see you guys in another session, probably. I hope so. I like these. I really wish it could have been face-to-face, but circumstances being what they are.
Yes, I really miss the conferences. I miss seeing everybody from around the state and being able to chat and socialize and all of that. I think that's one of our biggest team builders, at least on a larger scale, and it's hard not having those.
Elizabeth, that does sound really good, doesn't it?
Elizabeth is off to get Rocky Red ice and vanilla ice cream.
I like that idea. I think I'm going to have to go do that too.
It does sound good, doesn't it?
Yes. Yes. All right, guys, have a great day. If you guys could go back to the stage, I'm sure they're doing some fun activities there, and we will see you guys soon.
All right. Have a great rest of your day. All right. You did great.
Thanks, Kristen.
I'm going to head out, and I will see you tomorrow.
Sounds good. We'll see you.
All right. Bye-bye.